going through this metamorphosis moment in their life right now. They're into
Mhm.
transition. Maybe they're confused or not quite sure where to go, which doorway, which pathway do we go?
Well, first of all, the dark night of the soul, those moments of metamorphosis, the ooh and the goo, it can feel very scary and it can feel so lonely. But if I could let your viewers know that they are not alone, and don't be afraid taking that next step of saying, I'm gonna do something different, because just on the other side, right, if you think about the butterfly, as it's going through that space and time of going through the ooh and the goo, the crumbling, just around the corner is that moment that there's gonna be a little peephole of light. You're going to have that moment of where you're going to be able to start to pull yourself out into a new birth.
Exhaustion, confusion, dark nights of your soul aren't necessarily breakdowns at all, but invitations into a deeper becoming. On today's episode, I'm joined by a soul alchemist, medium, and intuitive guide, my beautiful friend, Cynthia Clarke, who helps people awaken their sacred gifts, heal ancestral wounds, helping them to remember the truth of who they really are. She walks the shamanic path, honoring earth-based rituals. Together, we're going to explore what metamorphosis is, the symbolism of the butterfly, how balancing the divine feminine and the divine masculine, and how that can transform your life in this special Aquarian age. So if you've ever felt caught in between not knowing who you once were, or maybe not knowing who you're yet to become, then this conversation will show you how to trust yourself authentically, trust your transformation, reclaim your energy, and step into alignment with your highest self. This is a true calling. If you're passing by, you are meant to be here. So let's get into it with my beautiful friend, Cynthia. Welcome.
I'm so happy to be here. Beautiful, beautiful
Thank
gift.
you.
I'm so grateful we have connected. The stars aligned when we met.
Yeah.
So
What's so cool is that actually I had the pleasure of being on your podcast
yes,
recently.
girl. It was amazing.
That actually turned out to be so deep, so amazing. I hope everyone can get a chance to listen to that as well. And
Yes.
there's so much that we could just go on about it deep down into this beautiful universe, the laws of the
Mhm.
universe, and what true nature is all about. And
Yes.
just to share a little bit too, is when we were in our podcast group, you were one of the few that I actually, when we got on the phone, we literally flowed so easily and everything was just yes, 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 in the beliefs, right? Once you start living your true, authentic life, people start coming in your path for a reason. It's just so amazing to meet people like you who are in touch with yourself, in touch with nature. And I'm like, that's my girl.
Yes.
And you're an Aquarius. So,
That would, yes, was so meant to be. And I really feel like as we are aligning with this path and this passion, as we are in the Aquarian age, that divine feminine energy is bringing like-minded souls together, so that
yeah.
we can have a powerful ripple effect to help humanity as a whole be influenced to shift out of those old narratives and those old belief systems. So excited that we've connected. I think this is just the beginning. I think we established that in my podcast episode that we've got so many amazing things in store.
And this is just how powerful it can be when you meet new souls, right? Like
Mhm.
this is a soul connection. These people that come into your life all is for a reason. Maybe it's for, a splash, a season, a lifetime. We're to be present and make magic out of these connections, right? So I know
Yes,
that we have many more conversations to go and to deep dive
absolutely.
into. Oh, can't
Yes.
wait.
Yes, and I feel
Um,
like that's how we complement each other so well when you think about
yes.
the planet and you think about nature, or you even think about a patchwork quilt, right?
Yep.
Like, if we were all exactly the same, like, it would make life and it would make humanity pretty boring. And I mean,
Yes.
not that that's not a beautiful thing, but if we're all these, like, cookie cutter people, Like we don't
Yes.
have dimension. And so when we meet other souls, like that's what we bring to the table. And we're moving out of that um, more toxic frequency that we've been in for so long about hierarchies and ladders and competition. And we're really just coming into that unity of the circle of the divine feminine to come together with our gifts. And as we come together with our gifts, we complement so well and we bring such a beautiful tapestry to the world.
I love that is so awesome how you put that. And for people who are listening, what is the Aquarian age and what's so important about this period? And then if you can go into also the feminine and masculine for someone who maybe has not heard that before.
Well, we're coming out of that Piscean era, right? And the Piscean era offers a lot of beautiful, beautiful components. But unfortunately, because we've been structured under more of a patriarchal society, and I'm not saying
Uh-huh.
that to project that men are bad or anything. Like I really want to clarify that this system is based off of how things were formatted thousands and thousands of years ago through that
Yes.
era. And it has impacted a shutting out of the divine feminine. If you're sitting there today, you would probably more than likely look at the structures of society and they have been based off of male deities. Even in our political structures, we have a lot of hierarchical structures that have a man at the top. And so it kind of puts more of those layers of maybe the feminine deities. Those have been closed off, and we have not had those in the intrinsic union that our society and our structure actually craves. I have a whole episode on my podcast that talks about toxic patriarchy. If patriarchy and matriarchy were used and formatted in their positive structures, right? There's a lot of benefits that we can get from it. But unfortunately, toxic patriarchy has created a lot of disarray on our planet. And so this Aquarian age is almost like a reintegration of bringing back our connection with not only the divine feminine, but these energies that lie within us. And so whether you are a spiritual person or not, each one of us have masculine and feminine qualities within. It's
Uh-huh.
not about gender, it's a movement. And so Aquarian age is about bringing back that beautiful quality of the divine feminine so that we can start to shine a light on these parts of ourself that are innately masculine and feminine, and we get to heal those parts of ourself because each one of us has toxic masculine qualities and positive,
Uh-huh.
masculine qualities, as well as toxic feminine and negative and positive with the feminine. And so this divine feminine is starting to almost bring what I like to call a healing balm to start to bring a respite and a repair to all of the structures and individuals who have really impounded fear and shame based societies and systems and start to restructure that into a frequency of pure love. Um,
Uh-huh. Those energies that as a human, we are all built and created with these certain systems, right? We're so
yeah.
complex, like so perfectly made. And like how is this important?
As humans, we need both energies to be able to come into an integration of soul and self. And when you
Yes.
think about the thousands and thousands of years that we have been shut off from this part of ourselves, um, it's kind of like a missing piece, right? If you think about a
Uh-huh.
puzzle and you have so many pieces, right? Those are great. And we can look at the wonderful age that we have been in and all of the layers of structure and the action that masculine brings us, the logic, the linear thinking,
Uh-huh.
that's not a bad thing. Like we as humans
Mhm.
needed structure, right? If you think of through the ages of time, so that people could stop battling against each other, like we need organization, we need morals, we need structure. But
Mhm.
unfortunately, we have been pushed into kind of an overdrive, right? Like I said, it's all about the hustle. It's all about the competition. It's the push and the shove. It's like push other people
Mhm.
down, take no prisoners. Like, and that can be very, very toxic. And so, especially, as women, there's a lot of dynamics I could get into here.
Yeah.
Because I feel like as women, we have been taught via this toxic patriarchal structure that many of us have to kind of step into a role of people pleasing, to keep our mouths shut, to not create boundaries or stand up for ourselves. And I do believe men have also been impacted by this. And because many women have been in survival mode, depending on their life
Mhm.
experience, we as women have also been pushed into this masculine frequency, and we have lost a lot of those innate feminine qualities. I mean, it's a survival mechanism, right? If you think about thousands and thousands of years, if we go back thousands and thousands of years and we look at our DNA, and the ancestral components of what was done to women, we
Oh,
still
yeah.
have those effects living in our society today. And so for where the pendulum has swung with
Mhm.
with the feminine, right? Like we've moved into a lot of women that are like in the feminist era, right? And it's
Right.
swung so far over to this other side of the pendulum that there are also some destructive patterns and habits that
Exactly.
are happening, right?
Yes.
And I
Yes.
think the feminist movement, I believe, needed to happen. We needed something very big and loud to start to push it from one side to the other. But with the Aquarian age, this is the healing balm that I'm talking about. The divine feminine, her energy is coming back to the planet so that
Mhm.
we can start to take these pendulum swings that we have done in society and start to come back into a central alignment where divine feminine starts to dance with the divine
Mhm.
masculine, because in society we have been fed illusions and lies, and there may be someone
Yes.
out there that disagrees with me, and that's okay. Like, I honor you for where
Right.
you're at, but for thousands and thousands of years we have been fed so many lies, so many illusions about the name God and that
Mhm.
male deity, that so many people don't even have a safe relationship with God. So
Mhm.
I believe for at least the spiritual community out there, those that maybe have experienced religious trauma, the divine feminine is coming back in a space to soften the energy, heal the wounds of our ancestors of thousands and thousands, so many dimensions of time, where fear and shame have been those root toxic wounds, to start to bring in that healing respite so that
Mhm.
we can start to feel safe in our bodies again, because we have so many like nervous system responses that are going through the
Yes.
collective at this time. And especially, the time that we're recording, we just went through a Leo full moon, and that was a huge moon that was starting to
Yeah.
shine a huge light on so many of these shadows that are
Mhm.
ready to heal. And so, whether it's been through different experiences and layers and levels of abuse in your own life, or
Mhm.
throughout ages of time, there's a big light being shown on this so that we can bring in that divine feminine energy to
Mhm.
start to bring a new layer of healing so that we can start to essentially allow the body to finally go back into the rest and digest, right? Because I feel like
Oh.
we've been on a heightened state of fight, flight, freeze, or
Yeah.
fawn for thousands of years. And in order to shift that, the divine feminine are those missing pieces of the puzzle.
Yes.
Wherever you go on the planet, in different religious cultures, different planetary dynamics. The dynamics have been very toxic. And so,
For
whoever is
sure.
out there listening, this is a way for us to kind of come into a sacred homecoming to release the illusions, release those
Yes.
lies, so that we can reclaim our power, essentially.
So it's like architecturally designed, created to keep us all down, lower frequency, lower vibration,
Mhm,
because naturally we as humans, we are born with so much powerful DNA. We have crystals in our bodies, right? Like we have that
mhm,
so-called junk DNA. However, this junk DNA that's like 70% of our body is actually
mhm,
the most powerful DNA inside of us. And it goes off of thoughts and frequency, right? So this is a time with the masculine and the feminine coming into better balance. It's just going to help us bring more harmony on the planet, I think, as a whole.
mhm.
And like you said, generational healing. Can you explain a little bit about your background as well? How did you actually know that you were an intuitive and medium? Because of what you're speaking about, it's not that you're speaking this because you heard it from somewhere. It's like a deep
Yeah,
internal knowing,
exactly.
right?
Yes.
So if you can share a little bit about your upbringing and how did you come to find out that you were so in touch with source energy?
Wow. That's definitely layered. So if I miss any pieces, please keep me on track or have me add whatever you would like.
For sure.
For me, as Michi was describing in the beginning, my passion really to help others integrate this divine feminine, this divine masculine sacred dance within, um, that typically comes with some of those dark night of the soul moments, and it doesn't always have to look, so bleak and horrible. Dark nights of the souls have many layers and levels, and I'll get into that in a minute.
Mm-hmm.
But because I have personally walked multiple dark nights of the soul, like sometimes you hear about this work and you're like, oh, I just want it to be a one and done and be
Right.
complete, right? But as I've done this work, it's been interesting to see how as we are starting to unravel illusions and lies and experiences that we go through, that sometimes it can be more than one. For me, my initial dark night of the soul was an early childhood trauma, losing my father to a sudden heart attack. And when that happened, I was a very young 20-month-old. It wasn't
Uh,
something that in my memory I cognitively had a picture of him in my mind. I had a memory of him in my soul. And
wow.
and if you for those of you that have experienced early childhood trauma, I'm just gonna put in a little blip about making sure that you look at the ACE study and why I am so incredibly passionate and an advocate to help individuals heal early childhood trauma, because the impact of early childhood trauma on someone whose brain is in the process of developing
Mm-hmm.
is so vital. And it is so important. And at the time, when I lost my father, it was in the 1970s. And so at that time, therapy, grief work, all of these things
Mm,
just weren't emphasized. And as a little
right.
girl, my family just made the assumption that, well, she's so young, she doesn't remember her dad anyway. And it just kind of got pushed to the side. My mom moved on with her life,
Right.
and that was a coping mechanism. Growing up in my life, I felt things so deeply. And I just thought that was normal. I didn't realize
Uh-huh.
that that might be something that indicated some other things, that I would find out later on in my life. But when I was growing up, when I walked into a room, like I could just feel everything. Like it just felt like I could I sensed all of these emotions, yet my family was giving me a different message. They didn't converse or talk about my father. It was just kind of like it was shut to the side. And so I had no cognitive way of finally giving myself that freedom to grieve. And it wasn't until in my age of 30, and then I had another experience at the age of 37 that I had someone say, "Hey, have you ever grieved your father's death?" And I was like, "No." And so when I went on this journey to actually allow this 20-month-old baby to finally be received and heard, it was through kind of like that metamorphosis, that ooh and that goo of transformation, that I finally gave that little girl a homecoming. It was a
Mm.
safe place for her to come and land inside of my heart, and for me to tell her that I would never leave her and that her voice mattered. Like her grief, her
That's
sadness, her
beautiful.
longing, her missing mattered. And it was one of those moments because at the time I had been hit with 5 autoimmune disorder diagnoses. And many times when we go back and we look at that ACE study, a lot of these diseases, a lot of these different things that start to show up are because of the root of trauma. These dark nights of the soul were those catalysts that helped me start to wake up in a way, and they were so difficult and they were so hard, and I don't wish a dark night of the soul on
Wow.
anyone, but
Right.
those are kind of like those catalyst moments, that do start to give us a new corner of awareness, because through these dark nights of the soul, that's when I started having these little moments of realizing that I was connected to the other side. And it was even something that I went and I expressed to someone that I cared very deeply about, and they just kind of like pushed it away and was like, "Well, that's never happened to me," and just kind of like disregarded my whole experience of being able to connect with my father on the other side. And so it was really discombobulating because I was like, wow, I'm having all of these things being shown to me, even experiences with my ancestors, but the people that I reached out to for that didn't understand it. And thankfully, at the time, my husband received it so well, and really honored that part of me, because then subsequently, through the years, as I started to step into my passion, like, I mean, I healed, like it was a miracle for me. And so I was like, I have got
Wow.
to bring this as an Aquarian. I'm like, I've got to help heal the world. I've got to get this message out. And so Discover Divinity and my whole platform is based on a holistic healing platform to help bring information so people are healing. And as I
Ugh.
was doing my intuitive work through the years, it was really amazing to start to learn more about my different spiritual gifts. And especially like that initial spiritual gift that I could just feel and instantaneously be connected into someone's energy, know exactly what they were feeling. As I started to do my work, I would be shown things through clairvoyance or that inner knowing or clair
Mm-hmm.
audience. Like there's so many different ways that I
Yeah.
started to receive this
Clairsentient.
information.
There's, yeah. Yeah.
Yes, there's so many. And so I just kept having experiences over and over and over where I would have loved ones from the other side, ancestors from the other side continually need to bring my clients their messages. And so, although it's kind of like some accepted in some communities and then other communities, they're like, oh, that's not okay.
Right.
Like I've had to really just let go of that need to be accepted by everyone and be the people pleaser that I
Mm-hmm.
was taught to be, and just love and accept myself for who I am and my
Yes.
spiritual gifts, and start to lean in, because what I started to see is those were the messages that individuals were needing so deeply so that they could receive closure, so that they could receive healing in life. And
Right.
it's those moments, when we are in that sacred stillness that spirit will teach us. And so, it's not only with my own ancestors, I've had several experiences with my father. And like I said, sometimes spirit will just randomly be like, okay, you need to share a message and I've got to share it. Like it's those moments that I just have to
Wow.
trust. And not all of my family members, not all of my community accept that part of me. And I think, kind of moving through this midlife portal, the gift of perimenopause as we're kind of moving into that wisdom patriarch crone stage of our lives. I think that that's when we finally do get to unleash and we get to let go of people pleasing and we get to step into our authentic self, because that then, as I was starting to live my truth, I was living my authentic space and to have also been led on my path of the energy healing arena. I had to really root in and start to think for myself of whether you are going to stay and conform and be in that metaphorical box, or if you are going to give yourself permission.
Right.
And that is where I guess probably this fire inside of me rose. And I had to lean into another layer, another level that would bring me into another catalyst, because it was during that next layer of the dark night of the soul and you feel just as passionate about this, but when we feel that divine feminine healing balm start to come into our lives, there is just this inner knowing. It's an ancient
Uh-huh.
wisdom. And I
Wow.
realized it was going to come with layers of rejection, because there have been layers of rejection as I have not conformed or fit in these metaphorical boxes. And
Uh-huh.
so it's been through that metamorphosis in that dark night of the soul, people rejecting me left and right because I'm not living in that box anymore. And
Yes.
I'm living an authentic life of truth. And with that divine feminine, that is where it parallels just the same journey that I went on with the loss of my father. I had all those puzzle pieces missing. I grew up with my mother. I had all these pieces that were missing with my dad. And when I finally spoke up, I used my voice because I went
Uh-huh.
against the grain. I went against the grain to not talk about hard things, to not feel my emotions, right? When I started to speak up for myself, that was another layer and level with the divine feminine. And as I have spoken up, as I have reclaimed her wisdom and her light in my life, on a spiritual level, I've had all of these pieces start to come back to me that have been the sacred reclamation, the sacred
Mm.
homecoming. And so I know that's a very extensive way of explaining it, but I can't leave out the pieces because they're all doorways. It can feel very lonely going through a dark night of the soul. I think a lot of us that go into this self-help world, or I'm going to dive into shadow work, or I'm going to do this thing, like
Right.
a lot of times I think people jump into it naively, because they just think, I'm going to just be in the Zen light and love phase all the
Right.
time, but
Right.
we can't do that part without facing the others.
Right.
And
It's not as
so
easy as like a
no.
band-aid. Exactly. You have
Mhm.
to do the deep work.
And that's why the ancestral work, our inner child work, is so
Uh-huh.
important. So we actually have at least 7 generations going back in our DNA, in our blood.
Uh-huh.
And
Uh-huh.
so a lot of these things that show up for us, like even if you think about your triggers, right? Like you think about something that
Uh-huh.
really bugs you or just gets to you. When we have those moments, those triggers mean so much more. There's probably a past experience, but there's also maybe some layers of that personal inner child, or there may be stories that go into your ancestry as well as things that tie into these thousands and thousands of years that I'm referring to that go back into other parts of our soul experience.
Do you think that
Mm-hmm.
something like that of a childhood trauma so young where maybe you haven't seen it, but disease these days, when you break it down for those who study ancient wisdom, the word is dis-ease, your body, there's something
Mm-hmm.
that happens to your body, your frequency, and just a disconnection from like the trauma, no matter what it is, if you're being abused, if you watch someone pass away, if something had happened and that causes issues sometimes unresolved. Do you think that sometimes dark night of the soul then hit again to allow
Mm-hmm.
you to do deeper work for a purpose, for a reason? Do you think that's why that was?
Yeah, and just to clarify, when my father passed, my mom was holding me. So
Ah,
I was there when he passed away. And so, yes, like you do not have to have a conscious memory to be impacted by trauma. So I'm definitely going to clarify that, especially for those of your viewers that have had bereavement or abandonment or abuse or different things that were going on at that
in
time.
the
Like even
environment. Uh-huh.
yes, even children that have been around parents or other people that have been abused or have witnessed hard things, our bodies pick up on that. There are imprints.
Oh, yes.
And yes, like I feel like the layers of healing that I've been called to heal, like yes, I had these different times where I healed, even at the age of 30, like I did healing work with my father's death. And then I had another experience in when I was 37, that really was kind of like that big kahuna where I had to go on that discovery process and these other traumas that hit that came up for me 2 years ago that didn't relate to my father's death at all. Um, those, as I was processing those, it was really interesting to me is I actually had a flashback for the very first time in my life of remembering my father dying. A picture
Wow.
that came to my brain, and
Wow.
so the body
Wow.
remembered, but then that was the first time I saw it, and thankfully, because of the modality that I am trained in, with Rapid Eye, like I feel like I've been able to use specific modalities to be able to help me because
Uh-huh.
sometimes we think, oh, okay, once I've dealt with it, it's done. And
Yeah.
and I'm hoping, my hope is that I'm like, okay, that,
No more.
that's it. That is like, we're
Right.
done. But I think sometimes we have to realize that these are layered and depending on where we're at in life, it is like peeling an onion, right? Like
Oh,
we
yes.
have
Yes.
different levels and layers of understanding. And so even when we look at grief, um, as a whole, it gives us kind of like a direction of where we go with what we might be experiencing at the time. What the viewers need to understand is that grief is not linear, it's a spiral. And so, even though I've had different timelines of my life where I've been able to go through and understand my father's death on different layers, it hits at
Mhm.
different times sometimes. And so, especially if you've had bereavement, you've had abandonment, you've had the end of a relationship. Grief sometimes will go in different spiral activity, if that makes sense. And so
Yeah.
being able to not like beat yourself up if you did experience something as a little child and here you are as an adult and you're having something come up and go, well, I thought I was over that, right? Like being able to
Mhm.
just truly show up for this when it comes up because there are different triggers, there are different experiences in our life that are calling out to be healed. And so, this ancestral connection that we have, our inner child wounds, these ones actually move in dimensions. And I don't know the best way to explain this, but we go in patterns in our life that we are gaining and learning lessons from, but all the way until we die, we're
Right.
moving through layers and lessons of our inner child. And so you may have something that comes up at age 45 that you're like, wow, that was such a long time ago, but it's actually just
Right.
another piece of that thing that
And
you came to the planet to learn.
so for someone in their midlife now hearing this, maybe
Mhm.
they don't know exactly in their childhood what exactly had happened, but they know it was something, or they just remember growing up in such a loud, messy household. This probably is like now coming up as a message to them, like, hey, this might be why my life has been just, a cycle of a mess of like karmic patterns continuing to go on and on. It's just problem
Mhm.
after problem. Even for myself, like I'm working on cutting cords. I have done a lot of deep work on myself. And for you and I, we're very spiritually in tuned and we know what's going to help us because we've studied
Mhm.
this so much, right? But for a lot of viewers here, they may not know exactly, but there's something in them that is saying, yes, I grew up in such a messy time, or something had happened, and they know that this probably could be part of the reason why they're just having issue after issue, whether it's health wise, whether it's financially. What is something you would suggest to them, like practice that they could do at home to guide them or lead them out of the loop or the mess that they're in?
So, what I want the viewers to understand is this if you think about a butterfly, right? These stages and these processes aren't always exactly linear, right? And when we think about metamorphosis, it's not always neat. And so sometimes it's in those moments when you are, just like you were saying, feeling like some of those patterns that just keep repeating,
Sure.
those moments of friction, right? It's those things right there that are kind of like your wake up call, that are the message. Maybe there is something going on with your body. Maybe you do keep repeating a pattern in relationships. Maybe there's something going on in your workplace. Maybe a structure or an organization no longer serves you, but it is that friction sometimes that is giving us that awareness so that we can answer the call. It is to go into like the metamorphosis of being able to trust the process to be able to help us learn new patterns and habits. Because just like you were saying in the beginning, we've all come to the planet with this innate wisdom of who we are. And I just posted something today on my social media that talks about unbecoming. It's an
Oh, I love,
unbecoming.
yeah, yes,
And it's
yes.
it's not necessarily that you're stopping being who you are, because you are innately who you are always. It's stepping into the space of peeling back and letting go of all the lies and the illusions,
Mhm.
that have ever
And the
blocked you
programs.
from
Mhm.
your truth. Yes, and so being able to ask yourself, what am I no longer willing to carry? You've talked about, okay, let's figure out a way to start to make healthier boundaries, right? And especially for a lot of us that have been people pleasers for so long,
Yeah.
um, learning how to create new habits and patterns is going to be, something that's going to be important. And a lot of those learned behaviors come from when we were little children, depending on how we grew up or how we were raised. But then you need to
Mhm.
understand that your parents and their parents and their parents and their parents, there are things that go into these deeper layers. So I'm always going to
Yes.
invite someone to reach out, to work personally with someone who has the ability to facilitate that guidance and that intuitive ability to direct or allow someone to wake that up within themselves, because I feel like a lot of people, they don't trust themselves. We've
Mhm.
been in such a fear-based, shame-based society
Mhm.
that we don't trust that inner voice anymore.
Yes.
And so being able to apply practical tools is a good start.
What is a session that they would do with you to start healing that?
Typically when you come into a session with me, it's really going to depend on the individual, because when I'm with someone, I intuitively will see or feel or tap into places in the body or specific experiences that they've had, maybe different loved ones or ancestors that are trying to bring them messages. And so it's going to be very fine-tuned what it is that they are ready for, and it's so intuitive, um, that it doesn't always structurally look exactly the same for every single person. Everyone has their own unique blueprint, but being able to help that individual through either guided meditation or visualization are some really great practices that we can use to be able to help them tune into the body. Because when we lean into the body, when we lean into that nervous system that keeps saying, hey, I need you to listen to me today, right? Like, let's say you are having headaches over and over again, or maybe you just keep hitting a wall every time you are trying to earn money. And so, what I do is I help people learn how to go into their own intuitive gifts to start to receive those ahas. And I'm usually shown lots of pictures or symbols or receive intuitive hits of where they might be storing some of this information, where they've got it in their
Like it's a
ancestral
channel,
life.
right?
hmm and just being
Okay,
able
okay.
yeah, just being able to show that person while they're kind of feeling more comfortable. We just have had so many things that have happened to us that we don't typically trust ourselves. Um,
Right.
so but I if when people are open and they're ready to let me help them, I will offer, information that can help them see those blocks so that they can start to move those out of the way. And so I do have a tuning into the body meditation that I would probably say, okay, this is a practical tool for you to use
Mhm.
on a regular basis. It's about 20 minutes for you to just go into that space of meditation. Because, I mean, the breath, first of all, is free. Like that does not cost you a thing. And breath work is so powerful. And just being able to push pause is one of the most powerful things as we are stepping into the
Yes.
Aquarian divine feminine energy is just being still. In society, things are moving so fast that we don't have
Mhm.
time to be in our intuitive wisdom. When we're so distracted by technology, we're so distracted by places to go, things to do, that we don't have stillness. And so, my first recommendation for someone out there that's going, oh, I want to heal, I want to break out of these patterns, is being able to get yourself in the present moment and breathe.
Yes.
Because when you
Yes.
breathe, spirit will speak. We have to show up enough to just see it, validate it,
Mhm.
say, I hear you, right? Even when you're still enough and you can go, oh, okay, this thing that's going on in my body, let me breathe into it and say, I see you, I hear you, and I promise that I will never leave you again.
Yes, I
And
love that.
and when you can breathe, you can be still and you can just say, hey, whether it's the headache, whether it's the anger that you're feeling, whether it's the sadness, and just take a moment and say, I hear you. I see you. I promise I won't leave you. You deserve to be heard too. And give yourself that permission. The body
That's
finally
powerful.
feels safe
Yes.
to let it go.
Yes.
And so I have a tuning into the body meditation that can also be supportive,
Yes.
but those two things I would say at home, something that you can do on your own, and then use the tuning into the body meditation for some of this deep work, the inner child work, the ancestral work. We have a lot of layers and levels as a human collective that need to be witnessed. Some of those science-based modalities are really important because we start to hit those memory fields that are in the body, but also emotionally, mentally, spiritually, energetically, and we're able to help the body let go of it.
Exactly. Each person is unique in their own way with their own story. So, like you
Mhm.
said, everybody's requiring different needs. I never in the world could meditate before. I was so hyper and attention issues. And now I actually teach energy healing. And so
Mhm.
I went from one thing to complete opposite, but to let people out there know that it is possible. And if you don't know what in the world to do, it's a matter of pause, be still. And there's so many resources out there to go ahead and try and just get comfortable with your own
Mhm.
body. And when you were reciting that affirmation, that was even just
Mhm.
saying that was so
It's so
powerful
healing.
because you may think you don't need it. You may think, oh, I'm fine, especially for the men out there who, yes, they're very, very tough, but a lot of them don't realize that they grew up with a lot of stuff and they've never had healing, never had energy
Mhm.
healing. A lot of women who are natural mothers and nurturers that have been through so much, they've given their self almost depleted and neglecting their self because
Mhm.
they want to give, 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 but they need this healing. So something like that, so simple, is just powerful. Just when you were saying that, and
Mhm.
this is a perfect move, a perfect step for anyone listening that may feel stuck and that they feel maybe that they just need a little bit extra love and healing internally. This would be perfect for them to try.
Mhm.
And all of this is listening, right? Being in their essence, listening to spirit. For those who may be a little bit skeptical or not know too much about energy healing, once they become closer to their own personal self and listening to spirit, synchronicities and signs, will they start to show up in their life? Does that happen to everyone? And what can they do to start seeing these signs or synchronicities to guide them towards the right direction, the right path?
Mhm. Yeah. Well, and when you were talking about the mind, right? Like I've heard it phrased as the monkey mind. Um
Yes. I was the
Sometimes
queen of that.
yeah, and I mean and I think when we can let go of those expectations to believe that the monkey mind's going to quiet down, we just get to let it chatter, right? Like we just get to
Mhm.
let it be there, but what happens is when we can finally like place our hands over our heart and just breathe.
Yes.
And just those moments, you don't have to believe any of it, right? But just by us placing our hands over our hearts and just if the listeners are tuning in, even if you just think about one thing that you've been really having a hard time
Can we give
overcoming
them a
or
little something? Let's tell them to
yes,
grab right now, right? One
yes,
hand across the
yeah,
other, and
yeah,
then maybe guide them through a very, very quick
yeah. Yeah, I would say just allow yourself for a moment to just take a breath. And as you take a breath and you feel that rhythm of the inhalation and the exhalation in the body, and just start to be aware of the breath. You may have your grocery list or the things, the place you got to go, the yogurt that you left on the table, all the things that are going to be going. But all you need to do is just say, I hear you, and it's okay. I'll get to you soon. And just take another breath. And maybe as you're just breathing into that stillness, maybe think about something even today that's been troubling you or that's been bothering you. Maybe you've had some anger surface. Maybe you've had some sadness. Maybe you had some unexpected news. And as you breathe, start to just tune in to the space in your body of where you may be feeling that. You may notice maybe some tightness in your throat, maybe your shoulders, maybe some tension in your head, maybe heaviness in your heart, or maybe a friction or uncomfortable sensation just riding in through that gut or that solar plexus area. Maybe it's a part of the body, but as you're just breathing into that, as you just focus on the area and just lean into the uncomfortable, as you take that moment to say, as you breathe, I am here for you. Thank you so much for bringing me the deeper message that I am ready to hear. And I promise you that I see you, I hear you, and I validate you. And I will sit with you as long as it takes so that you feel safe with me. And as you lean into that space in your body, you may have a memory come up. You may still have the chatter of the mind, but just let it be there and allow yourself to now begin to see a beautiful cascading light transcend upon the crown of your head. Just as if an immersion of crystalline light warmly goes in through the crown of your head. Feel it transcend all the way down your spine, through the shoulders, the neck, the arms, the trunk of your body, all the way through the legs. And you'll notice these frequencies and vibrations of crystalline light, any color of the rainbow that you can possibly imagine. Begin to call upon whatever color you may see at this time to transcend and bring in and ask for the higher wisdom that you need to hear and receive this day. Allow that color of light to start to transmute and alchemize any of those energies that you've been holding on to and transmute it into the frequency of pure love. Continue to breathe and just tune into what it feels like to allow yourself to receive. Because as we sit into this wisdom of our divine innate knowing, the healing balm of the divine feminine is here to remind us that there is nothing that we need to do to be loved. We already are enough. And as you breathe into this inner knowing, this inner wisdom, imagine beautiful roots extending even further into planet Earth that will now begin to plug you into the sacred grid of your innate wisdom that I am. I am. And as you feel that call, that inner knowing, and you recite the words, I am, begin to notice the transformative frequencies of light emerge not only all the way through you on a physical level, receive it physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, and energetically on all levels, and claim your divine birthright to heal at this time. I receive, I receive, I receive. And we're just going to start to firmly see ourselves just plugging right into that sacred wisdom. Feeling that innate connection to that beautiful, pure love and light source. And when you're ready, we're going to start to weave that all the way back into your heart. As you feel your hands over your heart, we're going to start to anchor in the sacred knowing. And so at this moment, you may be feeling more peace. You may be feeling more calm, all the while allowing that monkey mind just to chatter away and say, thank you, thank you, thank you. I love all parts of me today. And as we step into the space of loving all the parts, we allow our soul to now step into the driver's seat. And so it is, and so it is, and so it is.
So powerful. Ah, that felt so good.
Mm,
Thank you, girl.
welcome.
And I hope everyone listening did this along with us. You can hit replay if you need to rewind this back. And gosh, can you imagine someone there that's just stuck in life doing what we just did in silence in their room or maybe in their
Mhm.
bathtub, some ritual, nice ritual, and do this for you. You know, this is
Yes.
something that even if you may not think you need deep healing, do what we just did, but really feel into it, envision it, and it is just so refreshing and healing.
Mhm. It
And
is.
what does it mean if I saw like a blue light? What does that mean?
Beautiful. Well, first of all, as you were leaning into the blue, as you were leaning into maybe some of that discord that you were feeling, what was the first sensation that you felt when the blue came up for you? What was your alchemy when it was transmuting?
It was like a refreshing. It felt like more like a wash. It just felt like a nice shade of blue, more kind of like a wash, I guess you could say. Does that make sense?
That's beautiful. And so that in itself was giving you the witness that your body is ready to let go of that particular angst or feeling that you were feeling in your body to step into your life purpose. It feels very very connected to almost a new pathway or a new step
Oh,
into your intuitive gifts. I feel like you've probably been on a journey of uncovering what your spiritual gifts are, and especially being into this new arena of being in the energy healing world. You are
yeah.
uncovering these things, and it's almost as if that is the gift that's coming in, as you're bridging into, like, it's almost like another spiritual gift that's sitting at your feet. I almost That's what I feel coming in, as I feel a spiritual gift of sorts
Oh,
that you're ready to open. I see a little present that you're ready to
yes.
unwrap.
You just give me the
And so,
chill.
like, that's what I'm feeling, is I feel like
Oh,
you're ready. Like, if you
yes.
felt like something was, like, holding you back before,
Yes.
that was
Yes,
your
yes, yes.
go to say it's time to start stepping into this new, space of intuitive
I
knowing and
love
wisdom.
that because that's why when you were speaking, I was like, just didn't understand why the blue, but I did feel like it was like a rinse, like a wash, but it was very
Mhm,
comfortable and soothing. It's
mhm,
affirmation, confirmation of something that I've been also thinking. I feel like there's something more. There's a gift that
mhm.
has not quite opened or blossomed yet because of
Yes.
being held back by current. Ah,
There we
this is so
go. I
beautiful.
know. Thank you for allowing me, that space. Thank you for asking the
Yeah.
question so I could see that for you. And that's what I kept seeing, was this beautiful gift that's actually wrapped in that beautiful blue. It's just like a sparkling blue, and you're ready. Like, you're ready
Oh,
for
I
it, but
love
you
it.
needed to
Yeah.
be willing to allow yourself to kind of lean into that. And there may be more dimensions and layers of parts of that formula that it's going to take for you to pull pull that open and finally let it be free.
Yes.
And so be willing to say, okay, what else do I need to look at with the blocks or the things that are kind of like right there? But this is your confirmation of saying, yes, it's ready. Now, don't be afraid Don't be afraid of some of those shadows that are going to be shown to you to say, hey, it's okay. Like, I've even got you. Like, those shadow parts of yourself, I'm here
Gotcha.
to hold space for you too. It feels a little scary, especially when we say shadow, especially those parts of our inner
Right.
children that have been afraid of the dark.
Yeah.
But this is the beauty of the divine
This is the
feminine.
beauty.
I love being able to hold space for individuals to do this work because the shadow work is really that next step in being able to help you unlock those other
I
parts.
love it.
So,
And thank you so much for your gifts and sharing this beautiful session with us
yeah, you're
and
welcome.
everything that you've just spoken to everyone's life. Imagine this is just the scratch of the surface of that energy healing and that deep inner work.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone who is listening, if you're feeling stuck, if you're feeling unsure in life, it's okay. Take these few gems that you heard today and apply it to your life, connect with spirit. And I think this was something so powerful and fantastic today to just give everyone a dose of this spirituality and this
Mm-hmm.
life that you live, that I live. And if you can just give your last words here. What would you like to say to those out there going through this metamorphosis moment in their life right now? They're into transition. Maybe they're confused or not quite sure where to go, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
which doorway, which pathway do we go? What would you like to say to them?
Mm-hmm.
And let us know where we can connect with you.
Mm. Well, first of all, the dark night of the soul, those moments of metamorphosis, the ooh and the goo, it can feel very scary and it can feel so lonely. Like, believe me, I have so much empathy and compassion because I have walked in the trenches. But if I could let your viewers know that they are not alone.
Mm,
And in those moments when it feels the hardest to reach out, that's when you've got to do it. And don't be afraid um of taking that next step of saying I'm going to do something different because just on the other side, right? If you think about the butterfly as it's going through that space and time of going through the ooh and the goo, the crumbling, just around the corner is that moment that there's going to be a little peephole of light. You're going to have that moment of where you're going to be able to start to pull yourself out into a new birth. We go through
yes,
a metaphorical death of sorts because we're letting go of these identities, these old belief systems, the old paradigms, the old egoic structures, and you're already in it. So know that it can only get better. And I'm absolutely here to be able to hold space for you in such a safe container because especially individuals who have experienced trauma, we handle it with care. There are so many dimensions to this work. Know that we go into this very individually based. So it's going to look different for every single person, but those would be, probably my words is to know that you're not alone and
yes,
then to be able to not be afraid of reaching out, of finding someone that you trust, that you feel safe with. And then I shared that those moments of being still, of giving yourself. We walked through that visualization. I'll provide a meditation for your viewers so that they have even just
beautiful.
something to help them get through every day. But I think my main emphasis is don't be afraid to step outside the box. Don't be afraid for that next portal, that next doorway of what's awaiting you, because this is only the beginning. There's so many beautiful parts that await when you finally transmute. You work your way out of that cocoon and you start to discover all the layers and levels of these new wings that you formed through these hard, dark experiences. And it's magnificent and it's wonderful when you can hold space for both the light in the dark and then spread your
Yeah.
wings and fly. And so absolutely, like, that's why I love the butterfly so much. It's in my logo. And um,
I love
the
that.
viewers can find me at discoveringdivinity.com. That would probably be your main platform to find me on my website, because that goes into the platform that I offer, but also the sessions that I offer. And if you're feeling inclined, or you're going, our session's a right fit for me, I typically will offer a 15-minute discovery call, just so that you
Yes.
can lean into that and say, is this the work that's right for me? And so if that does call to you, I can hold space, and they can find that on the website. So
Beautiful. Perfect. Thank you so much for everyone here. I'm happy for everyone listening because they can improve their life just by watching this, taking that one step to better themselves. If you've been feeling lack, there's so much more out there in this universe. This life is full of magic. And thank you, everyone, for listening. And Cynthia, thank you again. This won't
yeah,
be the
thank
last
you.
time that you'll be on here
Yeah.
because there's so much to dive
we
into.
we do have more coming. So